TBTL.
Hey there, welcome to another edition of Hey Dummies. This is the newsletter video where we, the dummies, answer your questions. Today featuring my friend Gigi, the standard poodle. Gigi, come here. Come here. Come on over here and get some pets. Try to give this video a little bit of pizzazz. Look at this little lady. She's not a little camera shy, but she'll help me out. She's like my emotional support video dog. The question this week, I don't know if it's anonymous, if it was submitted anonymously, or if we just lost the name of the person, but if you had a question about Washington State Ferries, yes, we're answering your question this week. The question is, do you have a favorite Washington State ferry or ferry run? Do you ride the ferry? Have you ridden other public ferries, and how do they compare? I don't have a particular favorite ferry, like as in the actual vessel. Like I couldn't tell you the difference between the Tillicum and the Klickitat, which I do think are names of specific ferries. But I will say either the Bainbridge Island to Seattle run or the Bremerton to Seattle run would probably be my favorite depending on the time of day, because if you time it right, you could be returning to Seattle right as the sun is setting and the whole city skyline is lit up. It's absolutely incredible. So I would recommend that one if you can do it. And I would say if you're a tourist and you're visiting Seattle, just riding the ferry is a relatively affordable, fun thing to do. Now, if you live in the Northwest and you have to take the ferry like every day, it gets kind of expensive, and the ferry system is perennially underfunded. So there's that whole thing. But if you're just like looking for something fun to do in Seattle, or in the Northwest, the greater Seattle area, jumping on a Washington State Ferry is a really good way to go. A buddy of mine, Robert, had proposed throwing a surprise wedding. Not a surprise, like it's a surprise to the people who are getting married, but like a sneak wedding on a Washington State Ferry, which I always thought was kind of a genius idea. And as someone who gets married a lot, I figured I might make use of this at some point. Everyone that you invite, they get a ferry ticket with the invite. And then you hire like a little string quartet, and, depending on the run, like if you did the, Bainbridge to Seattle run, you'd probably have 40 minutes or something to have the ceremony. People on the ferry would love it. You would have a spectacular background, like I said, city of Seattle, sunset, and it would cost you like nothing for the venue. So I don't know, that's maybe one to consider. As far as other ferries that I've been on, let's see, I've been on some ferries in like Italy, and I don't think anywhere in Europe, so I can't compare it, but I am personally a big fan of the Washington State Ferries, and I would also say there's something just tremendous about the kind of lousy food that they sell, because it's the kind of lousy food that I love. You will not get me to skip a hot pretzel with some of that institutional nacho cheese, or I love they have JoJo potatoes for some reason, like a beer, some JoJo potatoes, and a hot, kind of not that warm hot pretzel while you're sitting at one of those tables on the ferry in the Washington State Ferries. That is a unique delight. So if you find yourself visiting the Northwest and you're looking for somewhere fun, another good run is going from Coupeville to Port Townsend, to the small maritime village of Port Townsend. That's a run that I've made millions of times. I would recommend you get out and check them out, the Washington State Ferries, because they're really, really fun. So that is the answer to the question posed by a person who we are still not at this, as of press time, aware of who posed the question, but I hope that answer was mildly satisfactory. At the very least, you all got to see Gigi, which I think is kind of a treat. All right, send us your questions for the dummies. Send them in to andrew@tbtl.net. Put the subject line of Hey Dummies in there so we know where to categorize them. And thanks for subscribing to the newsletter, and we'll see you next week.